Hello everyone, and welcome back to Rewilding the Future and to our series, The Last Leopards of Europe. Today we travel to the rugged mountains and dry canyons of the Caucasus to talk about one of the rarest big cats on the continent, the Persian leopard, also called the Caucasian leopard, and its last survivors in Georgia. For decades, people believed the leopard was completely gone from this country, a ghost remembered only in legends, old hunting stories, and blurred photographs. But in the last 20 years, camera traps, footprints, and a few dramatic encounters have shown that this big cat is still here, clinging to life on the very edge of its former kingdom. In this video, I'll walk you through the history of leopards in Georgia, their tiny remaining population and where they live, the research and conservation work that helped prove they are still alive, what rewilding might look like in the Caucasus, and finally, what the future might hold for these last leopards of Georgia. For most of history, the Caucasian mountains were leopard country. Persian leopards once ranged from eastern Turkey across the greater and lesser Caucasus, including Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and into northern Iran and Turkmenistan. In Georgia, leopards used to roam from the semi-desert cliffs of Vashlovani in the southeast, all the way to the deep forests and rocky slopes near Tbilisi, Shita-Kartli, and the highlands of Tusheti and Kevsureti. Old records, local stories, and skins in museums tell us that up until the mid-20th century, leopards were still scattered across the country's remote valleys and mountains. Everything began to change under the Russian Empire and later during the Soviet period. Large predators like leopards were seen as pests and enemies of livestock. There were bounties for killing them, and they were shot or poisoned across the region. At the same time, intensive hunting reduced populations of wild prey like wild boar, bezoar goat, and red deer, and forests were cleared or overgrazed. By the late 1900s, leopard sightings in Georgia became extremely rare. Many scientists assume that the species had vanished from the country altogether. If you looked at a range map of the Persian leopard at the end of the 20th century, Georgia was often just a blank space where leopards used to be, a former range, not a living population. When we talk about how many leopards are left in Georgia today, the first thing I have to say is that nobody knows the exact number. Scientific assessments that look at hard evidence, camera trap photos, clear tracks, genetic samples, are very conservative. A 2022 range-wide study of the Persian leopard lists Georgia with one confirmed individual, and the IUCN and Cat Specialist Group also treat Georgia as holding only a minimal confirmed presence, compared to much larger numbers in Iran and small but clearer populations in Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Russia. At the same time, recent WWF reports say there are only about 40 to 60 Persian leopards and maybe 100 leopards in the whole Caucasus region. And, so whatever the exact number in Georgia is, we know it is part of a very small, highly endangered mountain population. But one leopard in Georgia does not mean there is literally only one cat walking around the country. Leopards are extremely secretive, mostly nocturnal, and they live in some of the roughest terrain in the Caucasus, steep cliffs, deep forests, and remote ridges where people and even rangers rarely go. Even in places where we know leopards are present, dozens of camera traps sometimes capture only a few images in an entire year. That's why some expert and media summaries suggest that, in reality, there may be a small handful of leopards using Georgian territory, maybe on the order of 5 to 20 animals in 2025, moving in and out as part of the wider Caucasus population. These numbers are not a precise count. They are more like a realistic range of possibility that reflects the fact that the species is incredibly hard to detect. So in this video, I prefer to be honest and say, in 2025, we have only a few confirmed individuals on camera, but the true number of leopards that occasionally roam through Georgia is probably still in the single digits or low tens at most, making them one of the rarest big cats in Europe. What we do know from the data is where these ghosts still appear. Over the last 2 decades, leopards have been confirmed in 3 main areas: Vashlovani National Park in the semi-desert of the southeast, where a male nicknamed Noah was recorded from 2003 to 2009. The high mountain Tusheti protected areas on the border with Dagestan, where camera traps photographed a leopard again in 2021 and 2022. And most recently, Al-Jedi National Park, south of Tbilisi, where in 2025 cameras captured the three-legged male Aran that had previously been monitored in Armenia. All of these records suggest that Georgia currently does not yet have a strong resident breeding population with several adult males and females and cubs. Instead, it hosts a very small number of leopards, most of them likely males, that use Georgian mountains and canyons as part of a transboundary corridor between Armenia, Azerbaijan, Iran, and the Russian Caucasus. Scientists have only confirmed a few individual leopards in Georgia with cameras and tracks, but because these cats are so secretive, the real number that moves through the country might be somewhere around 5 to 20 animals, still incredibly rare and hanging on by a thread. Animals crossing the country in any given year. The next question is, how do we even know they are still here at all? The answer is years of patient research and conservation work. Since the early 2000s, Georgian biologists, rangers, and NGOs like NACRAS and WWF Caucasus have been walking some of the wildest terrain in the country, trying to solve one simple but very difficult question. Is the leopard truly extinct here, or is it just hiding? In Vashlovani National Park, near the border with Azerbaijan, camera traps finally gave them the proof they were hoping for. In 2004, they captured images of a single male leopard in the semi-desert canyons, and this lonely cat was given a symbolic name, Noah. For several years, he was photographed again and again by the hidden cameras, becoming a kind of ambassador for the species and a powerful symbol that leopards had not completely disappeared from Georgia. Then, around 2009, the photos stopped coming. Noah vanished, and once again people feared that the leopard was gone for good. But the conservation teams did not give up. Instead, they shifted the search northwards into the greater Caucasus, focusing on protected areas like Tusheti and Pshavkev-Sureti, right along the border with Dagestan, Ingushetia, and Chechnya. For more than a decade, their camera traps recorded wolves, brown bears, turs, and deer, but no leopard. Then, after 12 long years, the ghost of the Caucasus stepped in front of a camera again. In August 2021, a single black and white night photo from Tusheti showed a Persian leopard walking across a forested slope. In 2022, another camera in the same region recorded what is believed to be the same individual. These images confirm that leopards still use Georgian territory as part of their range, even if we see them only once in many years. Alongside the fieldwork, Georgia has developed a national action plan for leopard conservation, based on a wider Caucasus leopard conservation strategy created by WWF and the IUCN Cat Specialist Group. This plan sets clear priorities: safeguard key habitats, maintain cross-border corridors, strengthen ranger patrols, and work with local communities on anti-poaching and coexistence. Without this mix of science, policy, and local support, the leopard in Georgia would probably be only a legend and an old photograph of Noah, not a living animal still caught by cameras in the mountains today. When I talk about rewilding leopards in Georgia, I don't only mean taking zoo animals and releasing them into the wild. In the Caucasus, rewilding is first of all about healing the ecosystem so that wild leopards can survive on their own and even increase from those few secretive individuals we still have. The first step is to make sure that the landscape still holds enough wild prey. Persian leopards here naturally hunt animals like wild boar, roe deer, red deer, bezoar goats, and East Caucasian turs, along with smaller mammals. If these herbivores are overhunted or pushed out by livestock, the leopard simply has nothing to eat, and it will either die, move away, or start attacking domestic animals. So rewilding in Georgia means strong protection and sometimes restoration of these prey species, especially in key areas such as Vashlovani, Tusheti, Lagodeki, and the corridors that link Georgia with Armenia and Azerbaijan. The second part of rewilding is about connectivity. The Caucasian leopard population is not a big, continuous block of animals. It is made up of small, isolated pockets scattered across Iran, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, and the Russian North Caucasus. No single country, including Georgia, can save the species on its own. That's why conservation scientists talk about transboundary conservation, making sure that leopards can safely move across borders along mountain chains, river valleys, and forest corridors. In practice, this means planning roads, dams, and other infrastructure in ways that don't block the last remaining routes, strengthening protected areas that lie on the borders, and creating joint monitoring and anti-poaching teams between neighboring states. A leopard doesn't know when it leaves Georgia and enters Armenia or Azerbaijan. It only knows whether the next valley is safe or not. Rewilding, in this sense, is about making the whole Caucasus feel like one connected home range for the leopard. There is also a third, more controversial layer: active reintroduction. In the western Caucasus of Russia, near Sochi, conservationists have been running a program to breed Persian leopards in captivity and release them into a protected reserve, trying to rebuild a wild population almost from zero. Some people suggest that, in the future, a similar approach might be needed in parts of the South Caucasus if natural recovery is too slow. But most experts agree that in Georgia right now, the priority is to protect and expand the wild leopards that are already there, and to strengthen links with neighboring populations. If the habitat is healthy, the prey is abundant, and the corridors are open, then leopards from Armenia, Azerbaijan, or even Iran have a chance to recolonize Georgia by themselves, which is the most natural form of rewilding. When we look at the rewilding areas in Georgia, places like Vashlovani, Tusheti, and the other mountain-protected areas, the good news is that there is still natural prey for leopards. Wild boar, roe deer, red deer, chamois, turs, and bezoar goats are all present, although in some regions their numbers are still recovering. That means the basic foundation for rewilding leopards is there, but we need to keep protecting and rebuilding these herbivore populations so the cats will always have enough to hunt. Before we talk about the future of leopards in Georgia, it's also important to remember that they are not alone in this landscape. They have to share it with wolves, golden jackals, striped hyenas, brown bears, and Eurasian lynx. When we talk about bringing leopards back, we also have to remember that they are not alone in the Georgian landscape. The same mountains, forests, and semi-deserts are already home to gray wolves, golden jackals, brown bears, Eurasian lynx, and striped hyenas, and each of these predators has its own niche. In a healthy ecosystem, they don't replace each other. They overlap, compete, steal from one another, and help to keep the system in balance. The leopard is usually the most powerful solitary ambush predator in this community. It is heavier and stronger than a lynx or a jackal, more agile in cliffs and canyons than a bear, and more stealthy than a wolf. That means a leopard can hunt a wide range of prey, from small mammals up to deer, wild goats, and young turs, and it will often dominate a kill if it arrives first. But because it hunts alone, it has to be clever. In areas with wolves, bears, hyenas, and other scavengers, leopards often drag their prey into dense cover or up into broken rocky ground to avoid losing it to a group of competitors. With wolves, the relationship is mostly about competition and occasional conflict. Both species hunt ungulates like wild boar and deer, and both use the same valleys and ridges. A single leopard is stronger than a single wolf, but a wolf pack has the advantage of numbers. So most of the time they try to avoid each other. A leopard might tolerate wolves at a distance, but if a pack discovers its kill, they can harass it and sometimes push it away from the carcass. In return, the presence of leopards can put pressure on wolves by reducing some shared prey and by forcing them to be more careful in rocky, steep habitats where the leopard is at home. In a rewilded Georgia, wolves and leopards would form a dynamic balance. Wolves dominating open slopes and group hunts, leopards ruling cliffs, canyons, and ambush sites. Golden jackals are much smaller and generally not a serious threat to an adult leopard. Their main role around a leopard is as opportunistic scavengers. When a leopard kills a boar or a deer and then leaves to rest or hide, jackals often move in to take small bites from what is left. If a leopard returns while they are feeding, they normally scatter immediately. In some cases, jackals can act as alarm systems in the landscape. Their calls at night can reveal to the leopard that something is moving nearby. People, wolves, or even the leopard itself being discovered. So the relationship is asymmetric. The jackals benefit from the leopard's presence because it provides carcasses and opens up leftovers. The leopard mostly ignores them and occasionally might kill a jackal if it gets too close to a kill. The Eurasian lynx is the other big cat in Georgia, but it is much smaller and more specialized than the leopard. Lynx mainly hunt medium-sized prey such as roe deer, hares, and grouse in dense forests, using thick cover and snow to their advantage. Where leopards are present, they generally sit a level below them in the hierarchy. If a leopard and a lynx meet, the lynx will usually avoid direct confrontation, and leopards have been known to kill lynx in some regions when they compete for the same prey. At the same time, having both species in the Caucasus is a sign of a richer predator community. Lynx focus more on forested areas and smaller prey, while leopards extend the predation pressure to rocky slopes, open woodland, and larger animals. In a rewilded Georgian landscape, the two cats would mostly partition the habitat and prey, with some overlap at the edges. Striped hyenas add another interesting layer to this picture. They still survive in the dry eastern parts of Georgia, especially around Vashlovani and the Eori uplands, and more widely across the eastern Caucasus, although they are now very rare and listed as threatened in the region. Striped hyenas are mainly scavengers and bone crushers, feeding on carcasses of wild and domestic animals. But they can also hunt small and medium-sized prey when the opportunity is right. Around leopard kills, they act as powerful kleptoparasites. In some areas, striped hyenas have even been observed driving a female leopard with cubs off an ibex carcass, only to be displaced later by a large male leopard returning to reclaim the kill, showing that dominance between them can shift depending on the situation. In the Caucasus, where both leopards and striped hyenas occur at very low densities, direct confrontations are probably rare, but the pattern is likely similar. A hyena may approach cautiously, test the leopard's willingness to defend its meal, and either grab a chance to feed or retreat if the cat stands its ground. Together, the leopard and the striped hyena form a kind of predator-scavenger partnership for the landscape, one doing most of the hunting, the other recycling what remains and cleaning the ecosystem of carcasses. Finally, brown bears are not direct hunting rivals for leopards. They are omnivores that eat everything from berries and roots to carrion, and occasionally young ungulates. But they can be very strong competitors at carcasses. A big bear can easily push a leopard off a kill if it finds one in the open, especially in forest or on gentler slopes. This is another reason leopards often try to cache their kills, drag them into difficult terrain, or feed quickly and move on. Bears, in turn, sometimes benefit from leopard kills when they are strong or lucky enough to find them first. So the relationship is less about direct predation and more about who controls the food. A leopard will not normally attack a healthy adult bear, and a bear is not built to chase and catch a fast, agile leopard on steep rocks. Both simply adjust their behavior and learn to share the same mountains without meeting too often. Altogether, when you put leopards, wolves, golden jackals, brown bears, Eurasian lynx, and striped hyenas together, you get a full, layered predator guild in the Caucasus. Each species adds something different. Wolves organize the landscape through pack hunting. Lynx silently patrol the forests. Jackals clean up leftovers. Bears reshape vegetation and scavenge. Striped hyenas crush bones and recycle carcasses. And leopards act as the stealthy, high-ranking ambush hunter. Rewilding leopards in Georgia is not about creating a new problem on top of these carnivores. It is about restoring the missing piece in a natural system that evolved with all of them living side by side for thousands of years. The future of the leopard in Georgia sits in a very fragile balance. On one side, all the regional and international assessments say the same thing. In the Caucasus ecoregion, the leopard is critically endangered, with only small, isolated nuclei left in a few mountain ranges. In Georgia itself, official reports still only count one confirmed individual based on recent camera trap and track evidence, even though, as we discussed, the real number moving through the country might be in that very small range of roughly 5 to 20 animals at most. With numbers this low, every threat becomes dangerous. One poisoned carcass meant for wolves, one poacher with a rifle, one badly placed road or mine that cuts a corridor, or even a single harsh winter that hits prey populations hard, can push such a tiny group closer to local extinction. On the other side, there are real reasons for hope. Over the last 2 decades, leopard conservation in the Caucasus has gone from being almost an afterthought to a fully organized international effort. WWF, NACRES, government agencies, and local communities now cooperate on a Caucasus-wide strategy and a national action plan for Georgia, something that did not exist before. Protected areas in key regions like Vashlovani and Tusheti have been expanded and better funded. Rangers receive training and equipment, and people in mountain villages increasingly see the leopard not just as a problem, but as a rare symbol of their region that could even attract ecotourism in the future. The camera trap photos from Tusheti and the rediscovery of the leopard after more than a decade of silence show that nature responds when we give it a chance. I think the next 20 to 30 years will decide the story we tell about the last leopards of Georgia. One possible future is that leopard conservation in the Caucasus succeeds. Prey populations remain healthy, protected areas and corridors stay intact, and cooperation between Georgia and its neighbors continues to grow. In that scenario, those 5 to 20 secretive cats become the founders of a slowly growing population, and one day we might talk about resident females with cubs in several Georgian mountain ranges. Another possible future is that we fail to act strongly enough or long enough. In that case, the leopard might survive in parts of Iran and maybe a few other refugees, while Georgia goes back to being just a blank spot on the range map, a place where leopards used to live. Right now, both futures are still possible, and our choices will decide which one becomes real. So when I say the last leopards of Georgia, I'm not only talking about a few rare cats slipping like shadows through the rocks of the Caucasus. I'm talking about a much bigger story, about how humans almost erased a top predator from an entire region, how a handful of scientists, rangers, and villagers refused to give up, and how a single blurry black and white image from a camera trap can suddenly remind a whole country that this animal is still alive. Those 5, 10, or 20 leopards that might still cross Georgia's mountains are more than just numbers. They are a question that nature is asking us. Are you willing to share this landscape with something wild, powerful, and free, or not? If you've watched this far, you are already part of the answer. By caring, by learning, by talking about these animals, you're helping to keep the story of the leopard in Georgia open instead of closed. And maybe, if we look far into the future, we can imagine something even bigger. We can imagine a Georgia with truly rich, overflowing nature. High plateaus and valleys where European bison and wild horses graze in great herds, river plains where elephants or their ecological replacements reshape the land, and wild mountains and forests where a full guild of predators live side by side: wolves, brown bears, lynx, striped hyenas, leopards, and perhaps one day even lions and tigers returning to parts of their ancient range. It may sound like a dream, but every big change in conservation begins exactly like that, as a vision of a wilder, more complete world and a decision not to give up. This episode is part of my series, The Last Leopards of Europe, where we explore the past, present, and possible future of these incredible cats across the continent. If you want to walk this path with me, subscribe, leave a comment, and share your own ideas about what a wild Georgia could look like in 20 or 100 years. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting Rewilding with your attention and your voice. And remember, as long as at least one leopard still walks through the mountains of Georgia, the story is not over yet.